Today is the 6th day of Tammuz, the, I guess, 12th of July. It comes after the 11th. And we're in the middle of chapter 6 of Shorosh Mitzvah Satfila in Derech Mitzvah Secha. So we were talking about the fact that God acquires the names, the measures, the characteristics, in the same way that a person would acquire some item, and it's not his essence.
No.
Ukma efresh ben Chassid lechesed. Now he says something very important about the names of the Sfirot. He says, we don't call it Chassid, we call it Chesed. So, Chassid means you are a Chassid. It's the adjective. The person is a Chassid. I said yesterday that they're predicates. But really, they're not even predicates. Because Chesed is when you turn it's a noun, basically. It's separate. It's completely separate. It's like a different item. And we're not saying that he's Chassid. About the Sfirot, we don't say there's a Sfira of Chassid, which would mean that God is now revealing himself to be a Chassid.
Okay.
Meaning that he is now, as it were, displaying a characteristic that he has. Okay. We say that he encloses himself within Chesed. And Chesed is like a separate object, as it were. That's what we said, that they're creations. That the Sfirot are separate creations. There are things that he created. And so he may be revealed now to have chesed, but he's not a chassid per se. We don't give him an attribute. Okay, here's the adjective. God is chassid. שהמידה נקרא חסד, והאדם שקנה מידה זו נקרא חסיד. Because the characteristic is called chesed, and the person who has acquired this trait is called a chassid. The same thing goes in the difference between wisdom and being wise. That the intellect is called wisdom. And the person who has acquired wisdom is called a wise man, a chacham. So if you say someone is a chacham, you say he's a chassid, you have described he himself. And we don't do that. We just say that Hashem is now revealing himself through wisdom, through chesed, through loving kindness. In the same way is here when we say that God is now enclothing himself. His simple, infinite light revelation is now enclosed within this particular sphera. So we give it a name, we give this enclothement a name, but we don't give him a new name. Vushem Yudken, when we talk about Chokhmah, we talk about Yudke. In the chart, you don't have Yudke, you have Asher. You have Ekye, Asher, Ekye. So you have Ekye, Asher, Ekye. But here you could also write Yudke. This is also the name of wisdom, which I didn't write here. But there's many, there's always more of them. ונמצא שם זה אינו למידת החוכמה והחסד, אלא מהותו ועצמותו יתברך. And therefore, when we say Yud K, for instance, for wisdom, we're not talking about the wisdom, we're talking about God himself. That this is his name. Again, referring to the same thing. It's just making order in all the different types of ways that we refer to him. רק ששם זה נקרא לו יתברך כאשר צמצם פשיטת הוראה גדול להתלבש בתואר פרטי להיות חכם בחוכמה, except that, again, we call him Yudke Ka when he has chosen to enclose his light within the sphere of wisdom. ואף על פי שצמצם עצמו, and even though this is a contraction, this is a limitation, he's imposed a limitation on himself. He said he imposes these limitations on himself because otherwise the world cannot receive the revelation. Still, the light that's inside is the light from before the contraction. It is one simple unity. as it was before the contraction, אלא שנראה בו הצמצום לעניין ההנהגה, וזהו לפי מעשה אני נקרא. But rather the tzimtzum, this contraction, this limitation, affects the way that he seems to act, and that's what it means, according to my actions, this is how I am named. That's what the Medrash says. Ani mamash, ani nikra, I myself am called by this. Sharei ani, it's not like that this is a connotation. This is this name Yud-Kei or this name Kel or Elohim, it refers to me myself. Sharei ani, kmo shani hu kodem hitlabshut b'midah zot, because I have not changed. I am still I, the way I was before, except that now I am enclosed also within this limiting factor called chesed or gvura and so on. מה שאין כן כשאינו מתלבש עדיין בספירותיו, אין לו שם ומידה שהורע עליו משום דלה מכל אינו מידות הוא כלל, but when he is, before he is enclothing himself in any of the sfirot, he doesn't have a name at all. And that's what the Tikkunei Zohar means when it says that he's not of any of these measures at all. So that's chapter 6. Now we're starting chapter 7, which is a little bit longer. So according to what we have explained now, we'll be able to answer a well-known challenge or question that's posed. In the Sifrei, which is the Medrash Halacha An Vayikra, Amru al pasuk Mika Hashem Elokeinu b'chol koreinu elav velo lemidotav. There's a pasuk that says, "Who is like Hashem our God in all our calling out to Him, all our beseeching Him, Him and not His measures, and not Him and not His characteristics." ובמקום אחר אמור הז"ל, in another place in the Talmud, the sages say, so that was a verse. The sages ask, what are we saying? That you can cling to God Himself, to the Shekhinah, to God's presence? Is there a way that you can do that? How can a person cling to God? Because Hashem Elokecha esh ochlau, because Hashem your God is a consuming fire. So how could you cling? And we know this, that they, even at the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, they said to Moshe, you should speak to us, and not God, because if God speaks to us, we'll die, which is exactly what happened. מכל מקום, ואם היות כי יש לחלק בין מצוות הקריאה עליו לדבקות, and even though it's a little bit different to talk about calling out to God, where here you should be calling out to God Himself, and clinging, which you could say is completely an existential act, to cling, it's your whole existence. So there you can understand that I can't cling to God Himself, because that won't work. Still, he says, there's another saying from the sages, this is a very important and famous one, מפני מה ישראל צועקים ואינם נענים? Why is it that the Jewish people cry out to God and they're not answered? What's the answer? מפני שאינם יודעים לכוון בשם. Because they don't know which names to use. There's a very famous medrash that Rabbi Avram Abulafia, who's usually considered to be the first Kabbalist, he chose as his basis for his whole shita, for his whole system of Kabbalah, because he claimed that everyone else in Kabbalah is dealing with Sfirot, and I'm dealing with the names of God, which is much higher, because the Medrash says they don't know which name to call upon. So what does that mean even? We said all the names refer to God. So what's going on? Right? It's a very strange thing to say, because you didn't call me by the right name. I'm not going to answer you. We just said that all the names refer to God anyway. So what's this whole thing? דלכאורה קשה, so the question is, כיוון שנצטווינו לקרוא אליו, דהיינו למהותו ועצומתו יתברך, שלא נלבב בשום מאוד במידה. Since we are commanded to call out to Him, and He has no name, He's not captured by any letter or word or measure or character trait or anything. אם כן, מה אכפת לנו אם אינם יודעים לכוון בשם? Why does it matter if we don't know the name? What's the point? It should make no difference, because we just said He has no name. לכוון בשם שהשמות עניינם בספירות ומידותיו יתברך, שהם כל וחסד and so on, שהוא למטה ממהותו ועצומתו יתברך. Because we just said that all the names, they refer to how we enclose himself within a particular sphere. So what does it matter if I now know which one I'm calling out to? I'm calling out to God. This is a very strange medrash. But the answer is, based on what we've explained, that it's not the same thing to talk about spheres, the midos, the measures of Hashem, and to talk about His names. Two different things. We just said that the sphere is a creation. It's something that He encloses Himself within. It's like our vacuum cleaner. It's like our trash dispenser, whatever it is. It's something that's using the light, but it's a creation. Because the midos, even though we call them divine, we give them this title, they're divine and so on, they're not God's essence. But they are creations from nothing to something. But the names, they refer to His very essence. And even though the names do not refer to God before He enclosed Himself in this limited reality, because the names are all after, still they refer to His essence. Mm-hmm. Because when it comes to before He enclosed Himself, and Sham Shum Shem Sheoreh Alav, then you can't call out to Him even, because there's no name at all. So the only way you could do something is completely abstract, but then it's not really calling out. Who are you calling out to? What it means abstractly is that you know that there's such a being, you know that there's a supreme being, you know that there's a God, but but you can't contain it in your mind, you can't grasp it, so you can't utter it, you can't say anything. So that's not called calling out. So when you call out, there has to be some kind of, like the way I would call out to a person. I have to refer to him in some way. I have to be able to point at him. So what am I pointing at? But the names, their superiority to this abstract state is that I'm still pointing to Him, but after He's contracted Himself, after He's brought Himself down into this limited reality. When He's already enclosed within His character traits, and then He can be described as being wise and being loving, full of loving kindness and mighty and judgmental and compassionate. הוא מהותו בעצמתו יתברך, כמו שהוא בעצמתו פשוט בתכלית הפשיטות, ואין השינוי באמיתי חס וחלילה. כנ"ל. In any case, the names, as we said, they don't change His reality from before He was. They are talking about that, but after it's been enclosed. So we have some benefit from the names. And if so, וכיוון שכן, מה שאמור הז"ל בספרי ולא למידותיו. So if this is the case, what the sages said in the Sifrei, in the Torah's Kohanim, ולא למידותיו, not to his character traits, not to his measures, not to the ספירות. רוצה לומר למידות בעצמן שאינן אלוק הכלל. What he means to say is don't dive into the Sfirot, because they are not God at all. They're divine, but they're not God. It's not the same thing. Ela ne'etzalim, they are creations. V'asur lanu litpalel elen, and we are not allowed to pray to them. Ki en bi'adan lo ilanu, because they have no way to help us. They're a creation. They're an instrument. That's like saying to the motor inside the vacuum cleaner, please clean my rug.
So in that way we can say, kind of, that a name is also a instrument.
So it's better than an instrument. The Sfirot are instruments.
Yes, but the name is still a... That's where I'm a little confused.
No, the name is a referral to God Himself.
Yes.
But it's not an instrument. An instrument would be something, in my parable, the instrument is something that's already created.
Yeah,
right.
Okay, I got you.
The Sfirah would be like, in a certain sense, the name would be like, in a certain sense, in the electricity parable, the electricity in this particular outlet. Is there power in this outlet? I need to plug it in somewhere. I can't just, I can't take the cord and put it in a midair and say, okay, because we don't have wireless electricity yet. Good. In any case, the Sfirot can't help us. They're only instruments, they're only vessels that God uses. The same thing that an axe cannot say that it chopped down the tree. Or again, the vacuum cleaner did not clean the rug. The person cleaned the rug. He used an instrument. Even to pray to them that they should beseech on our behalf. Even that's not allowed. And because of that, there's a whole question now about a certain thing that we say that in the end is sort of a mistake. It should have been struck out.
Can't we say in the Schus of a tzaddik, Hashem, please?
Yeah, but then you're talking to Hashem, you're not talking to the tzaddik. But we'll talk more about this tomorrow, because there's one important exception in all the davening. There's one place that we say something else, but sometimes you need to. In principle, it should have been struck out. The reason I think that they left it was because you need to have one place to demonstrate the rule through an exception. And we'll see it, God willing, tomorrow.